"That room belongs to my wife," my son shouted when I returned home after weeks away and tried to enter my own bedroom. At first, I found it strange and did not understand what was happening. But when I finally understood, I did something that not even my own lawyer would have known I was capable of doing. When I opened the front door of my own house, after 3 weeks away, the first thing I noticed was the smell. It was not the soft scent of lavender that I always tucked into the corners, nor the delicate air freshener I sprayed on the curtains every morning before leaving. It was something else. Stronger, sweeter, more alien. I left my suitcase by the entryway and walked slowly down the hall, feeling my feet sink into the carpet I had chosen 15 years ago, back when my husband was still alive, and this house still felt like a complete home. But now, something was different. There were boxes stacked against the living room wall, shoes that were not mine kicked off by the sofa, a woman's jacket hanging on the coat rack where my late husband's gray coat had always hung. I stopped. I took a deep breath. I tried to calm myself. Maybe Kevin had come to visit and brought some things. Maybe Ashley needed to store something here temporarily. Maybe there was a simple explanation and I was just tired from the trip. I moved toward the kitchen and found dirty dishes in the sink, coffee mugs with lipstick marks that were not my shade, takeout containers piled up in the trash can, the coffee maker. My Italian espresso machine that I brought back from a trip to Rome 20 years ago was stained and uncleaned. I felt a knot in my stomach. Something was not right. I walked up the stairs with my heart beating faster than normal. Every step creaked under my feet as if the house itself were trying to warn me. When I reached the second floor, I saw that the door to my bedroom was closed. My bedroom. The place where I had slept for 35 years. The place where I mourned the death of my husband. The place where I kept the photos of Kevin when he was a boy. His school drawings. The letters he wrote to me from college. I reached out for the handle, but before I could turn it, I heard rapid footsteps behind me. "Mom, what are you doing here?" It was Kevin. My son, my only son. The boy I raised alone after his father died. The young man for whom I paid full tuition. $20,000 a year for 4 years. The man to whom I gave $15,000 for his wedding to Ashley. The same man to whom I lent $30,000 for the down payment on his condo. Money he never paid back because there was always just a little bit more needed. I turned toward him, confused. "What am I doing here?" "Kevin, this is my house. I just got back from my trip." "Why are you asking me that?" He looked nervous. He had dark circles under his eyes, as if he had not slept well. His hair was messy, and he was wearing a wrinkled t-shirt. "Yeah, I know it is your house, but I thought you were coming back next week. We were not expecting you today." "You were not expecting me? Who is we?" I asked, feeling the confusion slowly transforming into something darker, something akin to fear. Before Kevin could answer, Ashley appeared from the other end of the hallway. She was wearing a silk robe that I had never seen before. Her hair was pulled up in a high bun, and she had that expression that always made me uncomfortable, that mixture of fake sweetness and calculated coldness. "Margaret, what a surprise to see you here so soon. We thought you would call before coming back." Ashley spoke with that soft voice she used when she wanted to seem nice, but in reality, she was annoyed. "Call? To enter my own house?" My voice came out firmer than I expected. Ashley exchanged a look with Kevin. It was quick, almost imperceptible, but I saw it. It was a look of complicity, of a shared secret, of something I was not supposed to know. "Well, it is just that. We have been staying here while you were away. The house was empty, and we thought it would be good to look after it. You know, so it does not feel so lonely." Ashley smiled, but her eyes did not smile. I nodded slowly, processing her words. "I understand. Thank you for watching the house. But I am back now, so I suppose you can go back to your apartment." The silence that followed was awkward, heavy. Kevin looked at the floor. Ashley crossed her arms. "Well, actually, we have been thinking that maybe it would be better if we stayed a little longer, just until we sort some things out." "What things?" I asked, feeling my patience beginning to run out. "Financial things. Mom, you know how everything is right now. The rent went up again, and with the expenses." Kevin started to explain, but his voice trailed off when he saw my expression. I had heard that story 1,000 times before. It was always the same. They always needed a little more. It was always just temporary. There was always a reason for me to open my wallet and solve their problems. All right, we can talk about that tomorrow. Right now, I just want to go into my room, take a bath, and rest. I am exhausted. I turned back toward my bedroom door, and this time I grabbed the handle. But before I could open it, Kevin stepped forward and put his hand on the door, holding it shut. Mom, wait. You cannot go in there. I looked at him without understanding. Excuse me? What did you say? That you cannot go in. That room belongs to Ashley now. It is our room. The words fell on me like stones. Cold, heavy, painful. What? That was all I could say. My voice sounded small, broken. It is just that. You see, Mom, when we arrived, we thought it was better to use the master suite because it is bigger and has the ensuite bathroom. You can use the guest room. It is comfortable too. Ashley spoke with such naturalness, as if she were explaining something obvious, something any reasonable person would understand. But I did not understand anything. I felt the world tilt slightly, like everything I knew was beginning to blur. Kevin, that is my room. All my things are in there. My photos, the bed where I slept with your father, the drawers with my clothes. What did you do with all that? We moved it to the guest room. Mom, it is all packed away nicely. Do not worry. Kevin still would not look me in the eyes. That I should not worry? I repeated, feeling something inside me begin to crack. Kevin, that is my bedroom. This is my house. How could you do that without even asking me? Oh, Margaret, do not be dramatic. It is just a room. Besides, at your age, do you really need so much space? The guest room is perfect for you. Coziers, easier to maintain. Ashley sighed as if I were a capricious child throwing a tantrum over nothing. At my age. Those words echoed in my head like warning bells. At my age. As if being 70 years old turned me into someone who no longer deserved a voice or a vote in her own home. As if my age were a sufficient reason for them to take what was mine. Ashley, I shared that room with my husband for 30 years. The most important memories of my life were born there. It is not just a room, period. She shrugged with indifference. Well, but your husband is gone, right? And you live alone. We are a couple. We need the space. It is logical. I looked at Kevin seeking support, waiting for him to say something, to defend me, to remember who I was and everything I had done for him, but he just stared at the floor, hands in his pockets, like a boy waiting for the storm to pass. Kevin, do you agree with this? He took a moment to respond. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded weak, almost ashamed. Mom, it is just. Ashley is right. It is only temporary. Just until we save enough money for our own place. You understand, right? No, I did not understand. Or maybe I understood too well, and that was what hurt the most. I stood in front of the door of my own bedroom, feeling my legs tremble. Not from fear, not from sadness, but from a cold rage that was beginning to awaken inside me after years of being dormant. A rage that had been buried under layers and layers of maternal love, of sacrifice, of wanting to always be the good mother who forgives everything and gives everything. Only temporary. I repeated Kevin's words softly, letting the bitter taste linger in my mouth. Like when I lent you the money for your condo 3 years ago? You also said that was temporary. You also promised to pay it back in 6 months. Kevin went pale. Ashley pursed her lips. Mom, that is different. We had unexpected expenses. I already explained it to you. Yes, you explained it to me. Several times. Every time I asked you about the money, there was always a new explanation, a new expense, a new emergency. My voice remained calm, but inside I felt something break definitively. Ashley took a step forward, placing herself between Kevin and me, as if she needed to protect him from me, from his own mother. Margaret, I do not know why you are getting like this. You have always been so generous with us. Why are you acting now as if we were robbing you? We are just asking for a place to stay temporarily. He is your son, for God's sake, your own flesh and blood. There it was again. That argument they had used 1,000 times to make me feel guilty. He is your son. He is your family. How can you deny something to your own blood? As if love had to be measured in dollars given and spaces ceded. As if being a mother meant disappearing so that they could take my place. You are right. Ashley. He is my son. That is why I paid for his entire college education. $80,000 in total. That is why I gave him $15,000 for his wedding. That is why I lent him $30,000 for his condo. That is why I have been sending him $1,500 every month for the last 2 years to help you with expenses. The words left my mouth like an accounting ledger I had never read aloud before. Figures I had preferred to forget, because remembering them hurt too much. Kevin looked up, surprised that I had everything so clear in my mind. Mom, I appreciate it. I have always appreciated it. Oh, really? You appreciate it? Because you have never paid me back a single dollar, Kevin. Not one. And now, on top of everything I have already given you, you also want my bedroom? You also want to keep the only space I have left in this house that I bought with your father's life insurance money? The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear my own agitated breathing, the ticking of the antique clock in the hallway, the distant sound of a car passing on the street. But neither of them said anything. Finally, I took a step back. All right, you win. Keep the room. Keep the whole house if you want. I am going to stay at a hotel tonight because I do not have the strength for this right now. Mom, do not exaggerate. Kevin tried to grab my arm, but I pulled away. Do not touch me, Kevin. Not right now. I turned around and went down the stairs without looking back. Each step cost me more than the last, not from physical fatigue, but from the weight of the disappointment I carried in my chest. I took my suitcase from the entryway, the same suitcase I had arrived with barely 30 minutes earlier, full of excitement to be back in my home. Now I dragged it outside, feeling like a stranger in my own house. Margaret, wait! I heard Ashley's voice from upstairs, but I did not stop. Wait for what, Ashley? So you can tell me I am being dramatic? So you can remind me of my age again? So you can explain to me how I should feel in my own house? I went out and closed the door behind me with more force than necessary. The sound resonated in the quiet afternoon street. My neighbors probably heard. They were probably wondering what was happening. But I did not care anymore. I got into my car and sat there, hands on the steering wheel, looking at the house where I had lived for so many years. The house I had cleaned, decorated, cared for as if it were a living being. The house where I raised Kevin after his father died. The house where every corner held a memory. And now I felt expelled from it. I started the engine and drove aimlessly for almost an hour. The streets passed before my eyes like blurry images. I did not cry. Not yet. The tears would come later. Right now, I just felt a cold numbness, as if my body had decided to disconnect from emotions to keep functioning. I ended up parking in front of a small diner that I used to visit with my husband many years ago. I went in and ordered a tea. The waitress, a young girl with brown hair and a ponytail, smiled at me warmly. Can I get you anything else, ma'am? I shook my head, unable to articulate words. I sat by the window and held the hot cup between my hands, letting the steam caress my face. Outside, people walked by in a hurry, couples holding hands, mothers pushing strollers, elderly people walking dogs. Everyone living their normal lives while mine was crumbling silently in this diner. I took my phone out of my purse and looked at the screen. Part of me expected a message from Kevin, an apology, a better explanation. Something that would make all this make sense. But there was nothing. Not a call, not a text, nothing. Then I started to remember. I could not help it. The memories came like waves, one after another, dragging me into the past. I remembered when Kevin was 7 years old and his father had just died. I remembered how he cried every night, asking for Daddy to come back. I remembered how I held him in the dark, promising him that everything would be okay, that I would take care of him, that he would never lack for anything. And I kept that promise. I worked double shifts as a nurse for years to pay for his private school. I missed social gatherings, vacations, moments of rest, all to ensure he had the best. I remembered his college graduation, how he hugged me that day and said, "Mom, everything I am is thanks to you." I cried with happiness. I thought it had all been worth it. I thought I had raised a good man, a grateful and noble man like his father. I remembered when he met Ashley. From the beginning, something about her made me uncomfortable, but I stayed silent because Kevin seemed happy. She was beautiful, confident, ambitious. Kevin was dazzled. "She is the woman of my life, Mom," he told me. And I smiled and gave him my blessing, because that is what mothers do, right? They approve of their children's decisions even if something in their gut tells them something is not right. I remembered the wedding. What an expensive wedding it was. Ashley wanted everything to be perfect. The imported dress, the exotic flowers, the luxury venue, the honeymoon in Europe. "We only get married once, Margaret," she told me with that smile that never reached her eyes. And I paid. I paid because Kevin asked me to. Because I saw the excitement on his face. Because a mother does the impossible to see her son happy. But after the wedding, something changed. The visits became less frequent, the calls shorter. They were always busy. They always had plans. And when they came, they always needed something. Money for the car, money for furniture, money for credit card debt. I gave and gave, hoping that each time would be the last, hoping that someday Kevin would show up at my door just to see me, not to ask me for something. The tea had gone cold in my hands. I do not know how long I had been sitting in that diner, lost in the labyrinth of my own thoughts. The waitress passed by a couple of times, looking at me with concern, but said nothing. She was probably used to seeing lonely people taking refuge in this place. Finally, I took out my phone and searched through my contacts. I needed to talk to someone. Someone who would listen to me without judging me. Someone who would tell me if I was crazy for feeling betrayed or if I was right to be furious. My fingers stopped on a name. Chloe, my granddaughter. Kevin's 23-year-old daughter. Chloe was different. She always had been. Since she was little, she had a special sensitivity, an ability to see beyond appearances. When her parents moved in with Ashley after the marriage, Chloe stayed with me on weekends. She said my house was quieter, that with me, she could be herself. She never asked me for money. She never expected anything from me except time and conversation. I dialed her number. She answered on the third ring. "Grandma, how are you? You are back from your trip." Her voice sounded cheerful, carefree. She still did not know what had happened. For a moment, I hesitated whether I should tell her. I did not want to put her in the middle of the conflict between her father and me. But I needed to talk to someone before I exploded. "Chloe, sweetheart? Yes, I am back. Could you come see me? I need to talk to you." There was a pause. Chloe knew my voice well enough to detect when something was wrong. "Grandma, what happened? Your voice sounds strange." "I am fine, honey. I need to see you. Can you?" "Of course. Where are you?" "I am coming right now." I gave her the address of the diner and hung up. I felt a small relief knowing she was coming. At least I would not be completely alone in this. Chloe arrived 20 minutes later. I saw her enter the diner with her long dark hair falling over her shoulders, her worn jeans, and her backpack slung over her shoulder. When she saw me, her expression changed immediately from concern to alarm. "Grandma." She sat across from me and took my hands. "What happened to you? You look different." "Chloe, I need to tell you something, and I want you to listen without interrupting." "Okay." She nodded, squeezing my hands gently. I told her everything. From the moment I arrived at the house and smelled that strange scent, to the conversation in the hallway, to Kevin's words telling me I could not enter my own bedroom. I told her about the $30,000 never paid back, about the monthly transfers, about all the years of giving and giving without receiving even a genuine thank you. As I spoke, I watched Chloe's face go from surprise to indignation. Her eyes filled with tears, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of rage. "I cannot believe Dad did that." Her voice trembled. "Grandma, that is horrible. That is your house, your bedroom. How could they? Your father says it is temporary, just until they save money." "Temporary. Grandma, they have been telling you everything is temporary for years. The loan for the condo was temporary. The help with expenses was temporary. But it never ends, does it? There is always something else." I was surprised to hear Chloe talk like that about her own father, but it also made me feel validated. I was not crazy. I was not being selfish. What they had done to me was wrong. "Chloe, I just want to understand. At what point did I stop being his mother and become his bank?" The tears finally began to roll down my cheeks. I could not hold them back anymore. Chloe got up from her chair, came to my side, and hugged me tight. There, in the middle of that diner, surrounded by the murmur of other people's conversations and the smell of fresh coffee, I finally allowed myself to cry. "Grandma, listen to me closely." Chloe pulled away a little to look me in the eyes. "You did nothing wrong. Nothing. You were an incredible mother. You gave Dad everything you could and more. But he and Ashley have taken advantage of your generosity, and that is not right. But he is my son, Chloe. He is my only son. If I do not help him, who will? Grandma, there is a difference between helping and enabling abuse. Dad is 45 years old. He is not a child. He has a job. He has a college degree that you paid for. He has all the tools to support himself. But he has chosen to live depending on you because it is easier. And Ashley. She has manipulated him to see you as a bottomless resource instead of as his mother." Her words were harsh, but true. I knew it deep down, but hearing it out loud made me face it realistically. "I do not know what to do, Chloe. I do not know how to handle this." "I do." The determination in her voice surprised me. "Grandma, you have to set boundaries. Clear and firm boundaries. And if Dad does not respect them, there have to be consequences." "What kind of consequences?" "Stop giving them money. Get your house back. Get your life back. Grandma, you have spent the last few years living for them. When was the last time you did something just for you? When was the last time you bought yourself something nice without feeling guilty? When was the last time you said no without giving explanations?" I remained silent because I had no answer. I could not remember the last time I had done something purely for my own pleasure without thinking if Kevin needed that money for something else. "Exactly." Chloe saw the answer in my silence. "Grandma, you are 70. You have worked all your life. You have sacrificed all your life. Do not you think you deserve to live for yourself now? But if I stop helping them, what is going to happen to them? They are going to have to learn to support themselves, like adults, like they should have been doing for years." Chloe was right. At the bottom of my heart, I knew it. But years of maternal conditioning, years of putting Kevin's needs above mine, years of believing that a good mother always gives without expecting anything in return, made it almost impossible to imagine myself taking such a firm stance. "I do not know if I can do it, Chloe. I do not know if I can be so tough on your father. It is not being tough, Grandma. It is being fair. It is respecting yourself. And if Dad really loves you, he will understand. It might not be immediately. He might get angry at first. But eventually, he will understand. And if he does not," Chloe paused, "if he does not, then you need to ask yourself if he really is the son you thought he was." Those words hit me like a punch to the stomach. The idea that Kevin might not be who I thought he was, the idea that perhaps my son had changed so much that I no longer recognized him, was devastating. "You knew they were staying at my house?" I asked her suddenly. Chloe shook her head. "No, Dad did not tell me anything. We barely speak lately. Since he has been with Ashley, she controls everything. She decides who they see, who they talk to, how they spend money. It is as if Dad has lost his own voice. Do you think she is manipulating him?" "I know she is manipulating him. Grandma, I have seen it. The way she talks to him, the way she makes him feel guilty when he wants to do something without consulting her. She has total control, and now she is doing the same to you." I thought of Ashley, of her calculated smiles, of her way of making me feel that I was being unreasonable every time I questioned something. I thought of how she always had a perfect explanation for every expense, every request, every invasion of my boundaries. So, what do I do? How do I get my house back without destroying my relationship with Kevin? Chloe took a deep breath. "Grandma, I am going to be honest with you. You might not be able to do both things. It may be that when you set boundaries, Dad gets angry. It may be that Ashley turns him against you. It may be that there is a period of distance and tension. But in the long run, it is the best for everyone. Because if you keep allowing this, you are going to end up with nothing. No money, no house, no dignity. And they are going to keep taking until there is nothing left to take." We left the diner when the sun was already starting to set. Chloe insisted on accompanying me to a nearby hotel. I booked a simple but comfortable room. While we went up in the elevator, my granddaughter would not let go of my hand, as if she feared I was going to crumble at any moment. "Do you want me to stay with you tonight, Grandma?" she asked me when we entered the room. "No, sweetheart. I will be fine. You need to go to your apartment. Get some rest. You have work tomorrow. Work can wait. You are more important." Those simple words broke me again. How ironic that my granddaughter, who had her whole life ahead of her, was willing to sacrifice her time for me, while my own son, to whom I gave everything, could not even let me enter my bedroom. "I will be fine, Chloe. Really, I just need to sleep and think clearly." She hugged me tight before leaving. "I will call you early tomorrow. And, Grandma, I want you to know I am proud of you. I know this is hard, but you are doing the right thing." When she left, I stayed alone in that hotel room that smelled of artificial lavender and disinfectant. I sat on the bed and looked around. The beige walls, the television mounted on the wall, the thick curtains blocking out the city light. Everything was impersonal, cold, alien. And yet, I felt more at peace here than in my own home. I took out my phone and saw 3 messages from Kevin. "Mom, please come back. We can talk. I did not mean to make you feel bad. It is just a misunderstanding. Ashley is worried about you. Come home." I read the messages over and over again. I looked for a real apology in them, an acknowledgement of what they had done wrong, a genuine sign of remorse. But there was nothing of that, just empty words designed to make me return without them having to change anything. I did not reply. I turned off the phone and left it on the nightstand. That night, I barely slept. I tossed and turned in bed, staring at the ceiling, reliving conversations, analyzing decisions, wondering at what moment everything had gone so wrong. At 3 a.m, I got up and made myself some tea with the small coffee maker in the room. I sat by the window and looked at the sleeping city. I thought of my husband, of how he would have handled this situation. He was always firmer than me, more capable of saying no without feeling guilty. "Margaret," he used to tell me, "you cannot save everyone. Sometimes people need to fall to learn how to get up." I never fully understood what he meant. Now, sitting in this hotel room at 3 a.m, I finally understood. When the sun came up, I showered, got dressed, and turned on my phone. There were 7 missed calls from Kevin and 2 more messages. There was also a message from a number I did not have saved but recognized immediately. It was Ashley. "Margaret, I know you are upset, but you have to understand that we have rights too. Kevin is your son and deserves your support. You cannot be so selfish." I read that message 3 times. Each time it made me angrier. Selfish? I was the selfish one? I, who had given everything I had. I, who had depleted my savings to ensure they had what they needed. I, who was now sleeping in a hotel because I had been kicked out of my own bedroom. I made a decision in that moment. A cold, calculated, definitive decision. I searched my contacts until I found Robert's name. Robert had been a friend of my husband and was now a respected lawyer specializing in family law and estates. I had seen him at my husband's funeral, and occasionally we ran into each other at social events. He always told me, "Margaret, if you ever need legal help, call me." I never thought I would need it, especially not to protect myself from my own son. I dialed his number. It was barely 8 a.m, but Robert was an early riser. "Margaret, is that you?" "Yes, Robert. I am sorry to call so early." "Do not worry. What is going on? You sound different." "Robert, I need your help. I need legal help." There was a brief pause. "Of course. When can you come to my office? Is today possible? For you, always. I will expect you at 10. I hung up and stared at the phone. This was real. I was going to take legal measures against my own son. The idea churned my stomach, but it also gave me a strange sense of power. For the first time in years, I was taking control of my own life. I arrived at Robert's office at 10 o'clock sharp. His secretary greeted me with a kind smile and offered me coffee. A few minutes later, Robert came out of his office. He was a man of about 60, gray hair perfectly combed, impeccable suit, intelligent gaze. "Margaret, come in, please." His office was elegant but cozy, shelves full of law books, a dark wood desk, family photographs on the walls. I sat across from him and suddenly did not know where to start. Take your time. Robert leaned back in his chair, patient. And so, for the second time in 24 hours, I told my story. But this time I did not cry. This time the words came out firm, clear, organized. I told him about the loans never paid back, about the monthly transfers, about how I arrived at my house and found they had taken my bedroom, about Ashley's messages calling me selfish. Robert listened to everything without interrupting. He took notes occasionally on a notepad. His expression remained neutral, professional, but I could see a flash of indignation in his eyes when I told him about the bedroom. When I finished, Robert put his pen down on the desk and looked directly at me. Margaret, the first thing I need to ask you is, what is it that you want to achieve? Do you want to recover the money you lent them? Do you want them out of your house? Do you want to protect your assets? Or do you want all of the above? I want my house back. I want them out immediately. And I stopped, hesitating if I should say what followed. I want to protect what I have left. I do not want them fighting over my estate when I die, or for Ashley to end up controlling everything. Robert nodded slowly. I understand. Well, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that legally the house is in your name, correct? Yes, completely in my name. I bought it with my husband's life insurance money. Perfect. That means you have every right to ask them to leave. In fact, they are occupying your property without your explicit consent, which technically could be considered trespassing. Did you give them permission in writing to stay? No. I did not even know they were there until I arrived yesterday. Even better. That means you can proceed with an eviction if necessary. Now, the bad news is that being your son, this could get complicated emotionally and potentially in court if he decides to fight. He could argue he has a right to be there by being your son, although legally he has no basis. How complicated could it be? It depends on how far Kevin is willing to go. If he agrees to leave peacefully, this is resolved in days. If he decides to fight, we could be talking about months. But eventually, you would win. It is your property. I took a deep breath. And the money I lent them? Is there any way to recover it? Robert grimaced. That is more complicated. Do you have signed documents? Promissory notes? Any kind of contract? I shook my head, feeling stupid. No. It was all verbal. They were direct bank transfers. Then it is your word against his. He could argue they were gifts, not loans. Without documentation, it would be difficult to prove otherwise in court. So I lost those $30,000. Not necessarily. If you have the transfer receipts, we can document the payments. And if Kevin at any moment acknowledged in writing that they were loans, text messages, emails, anything that could help. But being honest, recovering that money would be a long and expensive battle. You would have to decide if it is worth it. I stayed silent, processing all the information. Margaret, allow me to ask you something personal. Robert leaned forward. What is it that you really want? Beyond the legal aspect, beyond the money and the house. What is it that your heart needs? Robert's question caught me off guard. I had prepared myself to talk about laws, documents, legal procedures. I did not expect him to ask me what my heart needed. I felt my eyes filling with tears again, but this time they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of liberation. I want my dignity back, Robert. I want to wake up in the morning without feeling like I have to justify my existence. I want to stop being seen as a wallet with legs. I want my son to see me as his mother again, not as his solution to all his financial problems. My voice cracked a little. And if he cannot do that, then at least I want peace. I want to live the time I have left without feeling used. Robert nodded with understanding. Then my recommendation is the following. First, we are going to draft a formal eviction notice. We will give Kevin 30 days to vacate the property. It is enough time for him to find another place, and he cannot argue it was abrupt. Second, we are going to review your will and make changes if necessary. We are going to make sure your assets are protected and distributed exactly how you want. Third, and this is optional, we can draft a letter detailing the loans made to Kevin with the exact dates and amounts. Not necessarily to take to trial, but to have a clear record. Sometimes, seeing the numbers on paper makes people become aware of what really happened. And the monthly transfers I make to him? You cancel them immediately. Today, if possible. You call your bank and instruct them that all automatic transfers to Kevin's account must be suspended. Also, cancel any additional credit cards that are in your name but that he uses. He has a card of mine. For emergencies, he told me. Robert raised an eyebrow. When was the last time you checked the charges on that card? I remained silent. The truth was, I never checked them. I trusted that Kevin only used it for real emergencies. Margaret, I need you to do me a favor. When you leave here, go straight to the bank and request a detailed statement of that card for the last 6 months. I want you to see exactly what your money has been spent on. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Part of me did not want to know. Part of me preferred to remain in ignorance. But the stronger part, the part that had awakened yesterday when I was prevented from entering my own bedroom, needed to see the full truth. I will do it. Good. Now, let me prepare the documents. I will have them ready for you tomorrow. In the meantime, I want you to think carefully about how you want to proceed. Once you hand over that eviction notice, there is no turning back. Kevin is going to react, probably badly. Ashley is definitely going to react badly. You have to be prepared for that. And if he refuses to leave, then we proceed legally with the formal eviction through the court. As I told you, eventually you would win, but it would be longer and more painful. I got up from the chair, feeling strangely lighter despite the gravity of everything we had just discussed. Robert, thank you. You do not know how much this means to me. He stood up too and came around the desk to take my hand in his. Margaret, I knew your husband for many years. He was a good man, and I know he loved you deeply. I also know he would want you to take care of yourself. Do not feel guilty for protecting yourself. That does not make you a bad mother. It makes you a smart woman. I left Robert's office with a clear plan for the first time in days. I drove straight to the bank. It was noon, and there were quite a few people, but I waited patiently for my turn. When I was finally helped by an account executive, a young woman named Patricia, I explained what I needed. I need to suspend all automatic transfers going from my account to Kevin Miller's account. I also need to cancel an additional credit card that is in my name, and I want a detailed statement of the last 6 months of that card. Patricia typed on her computer without asking unnecessary questions. Professional and efficient. Understood, Mrs. Miller. The automatic transfers will be suspended immediately. To cancel the additional card, I need you to sign here. The cancellation will be effective in 24 hours. And the statement, do you want it printed or by email? Printed, please. Perfect. It will take me a few minutes. You can wait. I nodded and sat in one of the bank chairs. While I waited, I looked at my phone. More messages from Kevin. More messages from Ashley. There was even a message from an unknown number that turned out to be Ashley's mother. Mrs. Miller, my daughter told me what happened. I think you are misinterpreting the situation. Kevin and Ashley only want to help you. At your age, living alone can be dangerous. You should be together as a family. I deleted the message without finishing reading it. The manipulation was now coming from all sides. It was no longer just Ashley. Now she had recruited reinforcements. Mrs. Miller, Patricia called me from her desk. I approached and she handed me a thick envelope. Here is the statement. The automatic transfers are already canceled. The additional card will be canceled tomorrow at this same time. Thank you, Patricia. I left the bank with the envelope in my hands, feeling its weight. I did not open it there. I needed to be in a private place for this. I returned to the hotel, went up to my room, locked the door, and sat on the bed. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope and took out the sheets. Page after page of transactions. I started reading. Restaurants. Dozens of charges at expensive restaurants. Some for $100, others for $200, one for $350. Clothing. Charges at luxury department stores. $500 here, $700 there. Electronics. A charge of $1,200 at a tech store. Travel, airline tickets. Hotel reservations. A charge of $2,500 at a travel agency. I kept reading, feeling the rage growing in my chest with every page. These were not emergencies. This was a lifestyle that I was funding without knowing it. I calculated mentally. In the last 6 months, Kevin had spent more than $20,000 on that card. $20,000 in restaurants, clothing, travel, while telling me he had no money for rent, while asking me for monthly transfers for basic expenses. I got up and walked to the bathroom mirror. I stared at myself. I saw a 70-year-old woman with wrinkles around her eyes, gray hair, hands marked by years of work. But I also saw something else. I saw determination. I saw strength. I saw someone who was no longer going to allow herself to be treated like a fool. I picked up my phone and finally replied to Kevin's message. Kevin, we need to talk. In person. Tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon at the coffee shop on Maple Street. Come alone. Without Ashley. The reply came almost immediately. Mom, thanks for answering. Yes, we can talk. But why without Ashley? She is my wife. I do not have secrets with her. Because I need to talk to my son, not my daughter-in-law. If you want to understand what is happening, you come alone. If not, then there is nothing else to talk about. There was a long pause before the next reply. Okay, I will be there. I spent the rest of the day preparing myself mentally for the conversation. Chloe called me in the afternoon to see how I was. I told her about the visit to the lawyer and the bank. When I mentioned the $20,000 spent on the card, I heard her gasp loudly. Grandma, that is. I have no words. Dad really did that. The numbers do not lie, sweetheart. Are you going to confront him tomorrow? Yes. I am going to show him the statements. I am going to ask him directly how he justifies all this. And I am going to hand him the eviction notice. Do you want me to go with you? For moral support. I thought about it for a moment. Part of me wanted her support, but another part knew this was something I had to do alone. No, Chloe. Thank you for offering, but this is between your father and me. It needs to come from me only. I understand, but please, call me after. No matter what time it is. I promise. That night I slept better than the previous one. Not well, but better. I had a plan. I had proof. I had legal support. I no longer felt helpless. I was no longer the silent victim, enduring everything to keep the peace. I was a woman taking control of her own life. The next morning, I stopped by Robert's office to pick up the documents. The eviction notice was perfectly drafted, formal but clear. It gave Kevin 30 days to vacate the property. Robert had also prepared documents to change my will. Have you decided how you want to distribute your assets? He asked me. I want the house to go to Chloe. She is the only one who has really treated me like family and not like an ATM. Kevin can have some of the savings I have left, if there is anything left after all this. But the house is for Chloe. Robert nodded while taking notes on his legal pad. Perfect. I am going to draft the new will with those specifications. I am also going to include a clause that protects the assets from any attempt to contest it. Given that Kevin is your only child, he might try to question the will, arguing it was influenced by temporary emotions. But if we clearly document your reasons and your completely lucid mental state at the time of making these changes, it will be very difficult for him to succeed. How long will it take? A week maximum, but, Margaret, there is something else you should consider. Robert put down his pen and looked at me seriously. Once Kevin knows you have changed your will, things can get very ugly, especially with Ashley in the picture. I have seen cases where people become unpredictable when they feel they are losing an inheritance. How unpredictable? From attempts at extreme manipulation to, in rare cases, attempts to declare you mentally incompetent to invalidate your legal decisions. That is why it is important we establish your mental competence now, while everything is fresh. I am going to recommend you visit a trusted doctor and get an evaluation certifying you are in full command of your mental faculties. The idea that my own son might try to declare me incompetent churned my stomach. But after seeing the credit card statements, after everything that had happened, nothing would surprise me anymore. I will do it. Anything else? Yes, change the locks on your house. Today, if possible. Do not wait for the 30 days to be up. If Kevin has keys, change them. It is your property, and you have every right. But if I change the locks, he will not be able to enter to take his things. Exactly. You can coordinate a specific day and time for him to come, with your presence or that of a third party, to collect his belongings. But he cannot have free access to your house while this process unfolds. It is for your safety and your peace of mind. I left Robert's office with a folder full of documents and a mental list of things to do. First, find a locksmith. Second, meet with Kevin. Third, hand over the eviction notice. Fourth, start rebuilding my life. It was 2 p.m. when I arrived at the coffee shop on Maple Street. I ordered a chamomile tea and sat at a table by the window where I could see the entrance. I placed the folder with the documents on the table, along with the envelope with the credit card statements. At 3 o'clock sharp, I saw Kevin walk in. He looked tired, nervous. He was wearing a wrinkled shirt and jeans. His hair was messy. He saw me and walked toward the table with slow steps, as if he were walking toward his execution. "Hi, Mom." His voice sounded small. "Kevin, sit down." He sat across from me, not looking me in the eyes. He toyed with his hands on the table. "Mom, I want you to know it was never my intention to make you feel bad. I know things got out of control, but, Kevin, before you keep talking, I need you to see something." I took out the envelope with the statements and slid it across the table toward him. He looked at it with confusion. "What is this?" "Open it." Kevin opened the envelope and started leafing through the pages. I watched his face pale gradually, how his hands started to tremble slightly. "Mom, $20,000. Kevin, $20,000 in 6 months. In restaurants, clothing, travel, electronics. All while you were telling me you did not have money for rent. All while you were asking me for $1,500 each month for basic expenses. I can explain." "Explain what? That you lied to me? That you have been using me? That the card I gave you for emergencies? You have been using it as if it were your personal salary." Kevin dropped the papers on the table and covered his face with his hands. "Mom, things have been difficult. Ashley has expectations and I just wanted her to be happy." "And what about my happiness, Kevin? Did you ever ask yourself if I was happy paying for your lifestyle while I ran out of savings? I thought you had enough. The house is paid off. You have your pension. My pension is $1,200 a month. Kevin, $1,200. Of that, I was spending $1,500 transferring to you, plus what you were spending on the card. I was living off my savings. The savings your father left so I could have a dignified old age, and they are running out." I watched the tears begin to roll down Kevin's cheeks. But this time, his tears did not move me. This time I just felt a void where before there had been infinite compassion. "I am sorry, Mom. I am so sorry. I did not realize that." "You did not realize? Kevin, you are 45 years old. You have a college degree. You have a job. How is it possible you did not realize you were depleting your mother's resources?" He did not answer. He just cried in silence, shoulders shaking. "And then I come home after 3 weeks away, and I find you have taken my bedroom. My bedroom. Kevin. The place where I slept with your father. The place where I keep the memories of my entire life. And you told me I could not enter because now it was Ashley's room. It was her idea. I did not want to, but she said that. I do not care whose idea it was." You agreed. You looked me in the eye and told me I could not enter my own bedroom. You put your wife above your mother, not just emotionally, which would be understandable, but in my own house, using my own money. Kevin looked up, eyes red and puffy. "Mom, please, let me fix this. We will not leave the house. I will pay you back the money. Just give me a chance." I took the eviction notice out of the folder and put it in front of him. "You have 30 days to vacate the property. This is a legal eviction notice." It was drafted by my lawyer. Kevin took the letter with trembling hands and began to read it. His face went from surprise to shock and finally to something that looked like panic. "Mom, this is serious. This is very serious. Are you really going to do this to me?" "I am not doing anything to you, Kevin. You did this to yourself, and I am protecting myself. But where are we going to live? We do not have money saved for a deposit on another place." The irony of that statement did not go unnoticed. They did not have money saved because they had spent it all on expensive restaurants and trips. "That is not my problem, Kevin. You are a grown man with a job. You will find a way, like millions of people do every day. Ashley is going to be furious. Probably. But again, that is not my problem. This is my house, my property, and I want you out of it. Kevin stared at the letter for a long time. I could see his mind working, looking for arguments, looking for ways to reverse this, looking for the magic words that would make me change my mind. Mom, I know I made mistakes, big mistakes, but I am your son, your only son. Are you really going to throw me out on the street? I am not throwing you out on the street. I am giving you 30 days to find another place. And you are not a helpless child, Kevin. You are 45. You have a job. You have an education. What you do not have is the right to live in my house without my permission. And if I cannot find a place in 30 days, then you will have to look faster. Or ask Ashley's friends for help, or her family. I am sure her mother, who sent me a text telling me I am misinterpreting the situation, will be happy to help you. Kevin remained silent. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, he spoke with a voice barely audible. You hate me, Mom. The question took me by surprise. I looked at him truly for the first time since this conversation began. I saw the 7-year-old boy crying for his father. I saw the proud teenager who hugged me at his graduation. I saw the excited young man who introduced me to Ashley. But I also saw the man who had used me, lied to me, stripped me of my dignity little by little until almost nothing was left. I do not hate you, Kevin. My voice came out softer than I expected. But I am deeply disappointed, and I am tired. So tired of being seen as a solution to your problems instead of as your mother. I never wanted you to feel that way. But you made me feel that way. Maybe it was not your intention, but the result is the same. And now I have to make decisions to protect what little I have left. Not just financially, Kevin, also emotionally. My mental health, my dignity, my right to live in peace in my own home. Kevin closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them again, there was something different in his gaze, something between resignation and understanding. Is there anything I can do? Anything that changes your decision? Yes, you can leave my house in peace. You can accept you made mistakes and learn from them. You can start building your own life without depending on me. And someday, when you have done that, when you can come visit me without needing anything other than my company, maybe we can rebuild our relationship, but not before. And in the meantime, I need space. I need time to heal from all this. I need to remember who I am beyond being your provider. Kevin folded the eviction notice and put it in his pocket. He got up from the table, slowly, like a defeated man. I am going to respect your decision, Mom. I am not going to fight this. We will leave in 30 days. He paused. But I want you to know I am very sorry for hurting you. I know it does not mean much now, but it is true. I watched him walk away toward the door of the coffee shop. Part of me wanted to call him, hug him, tell him everything would be okay. But the stronger part, the part that had awakened and now kept me firm, knew this was necessary. For him and for me. When Kevin left, I stayed sitting at that table for a long time. My tea had gone completely cold. Outside, the afternoon was beginning to transform into night. The streetlights turned on one by one. People walked by with their lives, their problems, their stories. And I was there, a 70-year-old woman who had just confronted her son and who was not sure if she had done the right thing or if she had made the biggest mistake of her life. My phone rang. It was Chloe. Grandma, how did it go? I have been worried all afternoon. I just finished talking to your father. I showed him the statements. I handed him the eviction notice. I told him everything I needed to tell him. How did he react? He cried. He apologized. He said he will respect the decision and they will leave in 30 days. I heard Chloe sigh with relief. Grandma, I am proud of you. I know it was hard. It was the hardest thing I have done in my life, Chloe. Harder than burying your grandfather. Harder than anything else. Are you okay? I do not know. Ask me in a few days. Do you want me to come see you? Tomorrow, sweetie. Today, I need to be alone. After hanging up with Chloe, I called a locksmith. An older man named Mark arrived at the hotel in less than an hour. I explained the situation without going into many details, just enough for him to understand the urgency. Can you go to my house now and change all the locks? Of course, ma'am. Do you have the current keys? Yes, here they are. I handed him my set of keys. But my son has another set. That is why I need you to change them. Mark nodded with understanding. He had seen enough in his work not to ask questions. It is going to cost you around $300 to change all the locks. Front door, back door, and if you have a garage door too, do it. Everything. Mark went to my house and I stayed in the hotel room, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened in the last few days. My life had changed completely. I had made decisions I never thought I would make. I had faced truths I had been avoiding for years. An hour later, Mark returned with a new set of keys. All done, ma'am. All locks have been changed. Here are the new keys. No one else can get in now. I paid him and gave him a generous tip. When he left, I held the new keys in my hand. They were shiny, unused, full of possibilities. They were the physical symbol of my new life. A life where I controlled who entered and who left. A life where my boundaries would be respected. That night, I finally returned to my house. I opened the door with the new keys and went in. Everything was silent. The boxes I had seen the first day were still there, but now they felt different. They were no longer a permanent invasion. They were just temporary objects that would soon disappear. I went up the stairs and stopped in front of my bedroom door. This time, I opened it without hesitation. I went in and looked around. Had they moved my things? Yes. My clothes were packed in suitcases in a corner. My family photos were stacked on a dresser. The bed had different sheets. Sheets I had not bought. The smell was different. Ashley's perfume permeated everything. But it was still my room, my space, my house. I started to work. I stripped Ashley's sheets and put them in a trash bag. I took my own sheets out of the suitcase and remade the bed. I put my photos back in their places. I took out my clothes and hung them in the closet. I sprayed my lavender perfume all over the room. I opened the windows to let fresh air in. I worked for hours, reclaiming every inch of my space. When I finished, it was almost 2 a.m. I was exhausted, but I also felt something I had not felt in a long time. Satisfaction. The kind of satisfaction that comes from doing something difficult but necessary. I took a long bath in my own bathroom. I put on my most comfortable pajamas. I got into my bed, in my clean sheets that smelled of my favorite detergent. And for the first time in weeks, I slept deeply. The next morning, I woke up with the sun coming through the window. For a moment, I forgot everything that had happened, but then the memories returned, one by one. Kevin, Ashley, the confrontation, the eviction notice. It was all real. I got up and made coffee. Coffee in my Italian espresso machine that was now clean and shiny again. I sat in my kitchen, at my table, drinking from my favorite mug, looking at my garden through the window. It was a simple moment. Ordinary, but it felt extraordinary, because it was mine. The phone rang. It was Robert. Margaret. Good morning. How are you? I am fine, Robert. I went back to my house last night. I changed the locks. Perfect. Did you give the letter to Kevin? Yes. Yesterday. He said he will respect the decision and they will leave in 30 days. Excellent. Now, I have the new will almost ready. Can you come tomorrow to sign it? We will need witnesses, but I can provide them. I will be there. One more thing. Did you get the medical evaluation I recommended? Not yet. I will do it this week. Good. The sooner the better. After hanging up with Robert, the doorbell rang. For a moment, I felt panic. What if it was Kevin? What if it was Ashley? What if they came to confront me? But when I looked out the window, I saw it was Chloe. I opened the door and my granddaughter came in with a bag of pastries and 2 coffees. I thought you might need company for breakfast. I hugged her tight. Her presence was like a balm for my tired soul. Thank you for coming, sweetie. We sat in the kitchen and Chloe looked around. The house feels different. More. Yours. Last night I reclaimed my room. I removed every trace of them. And how do you feel? Tired, sad, relieved, scared, all at the same time. Chloe took my hand across the table. Grandma, I know this is hard. I know it hurts. But I want you to know something. You are doing the right thing. Not just for you, but also for Dad. He needs to learn to stand on his own 2 feet. He needs to understand that he cannot keep depending on you for everything. And most importantly, he needs to learn to value you. Do you think someday we can have a normal relationship again? I think so, but it is going to take time. And it is going to require him to do the work. For him to change. For him to grow. You already did your part. More than your part. Now it is his turn. We spent the morning together, talking, laughing occasionally, remembering happier moments. Chloe told me about her job, about the guy she was seeing, about her plans for the future. I realized it had been a long time since I had a conversation like that with someone. A conversation where it was not about problems or money or requests, just genuine human connection. The following days were strange. Living in my own house, knowing that Kevin and Ashley could no longer enter, created a sense of peace I had not experienced in years. But there was also a lingering sadness I could not ignore. It was the sadness of a mother who had had to protect herself from her own son. A sadness that no parenting manual prepares you to face. On the 5th day after the confrontation, Kevin sent me a text. "Mom, we found an apartment. We can move in 2 weeks. We can coordinate a day to come get our things." I replied simply and directly. "Saturday at 10 in the morning. Bring boxes and a truck. I want everything out that day." "Okay, thanks." There were no more messages after that. No additional apologies. No attempts at manipulation. Maybe Kevin had finally understood that this time was different. Or maybe Ashley had told him there was no point in keeping trying. On Friday, Chloe came to help me prepare the house for her father's move. We gathered all the things that were clearly theirs and put them in a designated area of the living room. Clothes, shoes, bath products, some small appliances they had brought. While we worked, I found things that surprised me. In the closet of the room they had used, I found designer clothing tags, $500 dresses, $300 shoes, purses from brands I barely recognized but that were clearly expensive, all bought with the card I had given them for emergencies. "Look at this, Chloe." I showed her a dress with the tag still on. $800. Chloe looked at it in disbelief. Ashley did not even take the tag off. She probably planned to return it after wearing it once. $800 on a dress while asking me for money for food. Grandma, this is sick. It is not just bad money management. It is, I do not know what to call it. Fraud? Financial abuse? It is whatever it is, but it is over now. I also found receipts. Stacks of receipts kept in a drawer. Dinners for 2 at restaurants where a plate cost $70. Tickets to concerts for famous bands. A receipt from a luxury spa for $500. Every receipt was a small stab, reminding me how they had been using me. "Are you going to show this to Dad tomorrow?" Chloe asked. "No. It makes no sense anymore. He already knows what he did. Showing him more evidence would only be to humiliate him. And that is not my goal. My goal is to get my life back, not destroy his." That night, I barely slept. I knew the next morning would be hard. Seeing Kevin and Ashley entering my house, collecting their things, closing this chapter, part of me still hoped Kevin would show up at my door, alone, eyes full of genuine tears, asking for forgiveness for real and promising to change. But I knew that probably would not happen. Saturday dawned gray and cloudy, as if the weather itself reflected the general mood. At 10 o'clock exactly, I heard the sound of a truck parking in front of my house. I looked out the window and saw Kevin getting out of the truck. Ashley was with him, wearing large sunglasses despite the cloudy day, her face a perfect mask of indifference. There was also another person with them, a man I did not recognize. Probably a friend they had recruited to help with the move. I opened the door before they rang the doorbell. Kevin looked up, and our eyes met. There was pain there, but also something else. Shame, perhaps, or just exhaustion. "Good morning, Mom." "Good morning, Kevin." Ashley. I did not even bother to feign cordiality with her. "Everything is in the living room. You can start." They entered in silence. Kevin's friend, a tall man named Mike, according to what I heard, started loading boxes immediately, trying to stay out of the obvious drama unfolding. Chloe had arrived early and was with me in the kitchen, making coffee. Her presence gave me strength. Every time I felt my resolve wavering, I looked at her and remembered why I was doing this. Ashley was the first to break the silence. She approached the kitchen and looked at me with those cold eyes that had always disturbed me. "Margaret, I hope you are happy. You are kicking us out onto the street without caring what happens to us." Before I could answer, Chloe stepped in. "No one is kicking you out onto the street, Ashley. They are giving you 30 days, which are almost up, to find another place. Which is exactly what millions of people do when they rent an apartment. The difference is, you were living rent-free in my grandmother's house." Ashley looked at her with surprise. She clearly did not expect Chloe, usually so quiet and diplomatic, to confront her. "You do not understand the full situation, Chloe. I understand perfectly. I understand you spent $20,000 in 6 months on restaurants and clothes while my grandmother ran out of savings. I understand you took her bedroom without permission. I understand you have been using her as a personal bank for years. What part do I not understand, Ashley?" Ashley's face turned red with rage. She opened her mouth to answer, but Kevin appeared in the kitchen doorway. "Ashley, please, let's finish packing and let's go. Do not make things worse." It was the first time I heard Kevin contradict Ashley. The first time he put her in her place. Something had changed in him. Maybe the reality of the situation had finally penetrated his conscience. Ashley shot him a furious look, but said nothing more. She turned around and stormed out of the kitchen. Kevin stood there, looking at me with an expression I could not fully decipher. "Mom, I want you to know I understand why you did this. Not immediately. But after thinking a lot these days, I understand, and you are right. I used you. I let Ashley use you, and I hate myself for that." His words sounded sincere, but I had learned to be cautious with words. Actions were what mattered. "I am glad you understand, Kevin. Really. But understanding is not enough. What matters is what you do with that understanding. If something has really changed, or if you are just saying what you think I want to hear, I have been thinking about a lot of things. About how I got to this point. About when I stopped being myself and became this." He made a vague gesture toward himself. "I think I need help. Professional help. A therapist or something." That surprised me. Kevin had never been the type to admit needing help. If you really believe that, then you should do it. Would you come with me? To family therapy? Eventually, when I am ready. I thought about it for a moment. Part of me wanted to say yes immediately. But the wiser part, the part that had learned to set boundaries, knew I needed to be careful. If you go to individual therapy first, if you do the work of understanding your own issues, then yes, I would consider going to family sessions with you. But Kevin, I need to see actions, not just words. I need to see that you are really changing." He nodded slowly. "I understand. And I will do it. I promise you. Promises do not mean much to me anymore. Son, show me with time." Kevin left the kitchen and continued packing. For the next 2 hours, I watched them take out box after box, piece of furniture after piece of furniture. Every object that went out the door was like a weight lifting off my shoulders. Ashley did not speak to me again. She kept busy packing, shooting me occasional looks of pure resentment. She clearly blamed me for all this. She had probably told Kevin I was the villain, the evil mother-in-law who had abandoned them in their time of need. But I no longer cared what Ashley thought of me. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Kevin came to get me. I was in my room, the room that was now completely mine again, looking out the window. "Mom, we are done. We are leaving now." I turned to look at him. He looked exhausted, defeated. But there was also something different in his eyes, maybe a glimmer of maturity that had not been there before. "Okay, you have everything." "Yes." We checked every room twice. We walked down the stairs together in silence. Ashley and Mike were already in the truck, waiting. At the front door, Kevin stopped and looked at me. "Mom, I know this fixes nothing, but thank you. Thank you for everything you did for me over all these years, and I am sorry for not valuing it when I should have. Kevin, I wish you the best. Truly. I hope you find your way. I hope you learn to live your own life without depending on anyone else. And I hope that someday, when we have both healed, we can have a different relationship. Better. I hope so too." He leaned in and kissed me on the cheek. "I love you, Mom. I love you too, son. I will always love you. But loving someone does not mean allowing them to hurt you." Kevin nodded. eyes shining with tears he refused to shed. Then he turned and walked toward the truck. I watched him climb in, start the engine, and drive away down the street. I stood in the doorway until the truck disappeared completely from my sight. Chloe came out and put her arm around my shoulders. "Are you okay, Grandma?" "Yes, I think so." "How does it feel?" I thought about the question for a moment. How did it feel? It was not complete relief. It was not happiness. It was not pure sadness. It was something more complex, more nuanced. It feels like closing a book I no longer need to keep reading, like finishing a very, very long chapter. The days after Kevin left were strangely quiet. The house, which had been a battleground of emotions and conflicts, now felt different. Not empty, but spacious. Like I could breathe again after holding my breath for years. The first week was an adjustment. I woke up every morning expecting to hear noises of other people in the house, but there was only silence. A silence that at first scared me, but that I gradually began to appreciate. It was my silence, my peace. Chloe came to visit me 3 or 4 times a week. We drank coffee, cooked together, watched old movies I loved. I realized that for years I had been so busy being useful, being needed, being the problem solver, that I had forgotten how to simply be, how to enjoy a moment without worrying about the next expense or the next request. 2 weeks after the move, I went to Robert's office to sign the new will. Everything was in order. The house and most of my assets would go to Chloe. Kevin would receive a modest sum of money, enough to show I had not disinherited him completely, but not enough for him to live off without working. "How do you feel about this decision?" Robert asked me while I signed the documents. "At peace. Chloe deserves this. She has been the only one who has treated me like real family, not like a resource to exploit." "Have you heard anything from Kevin?" A short text a few days ago saying they had settled into their new apartment. Nothing else. Give him time. Sometimes distance is necessary for people to really understand what they lost. I left Robert's office feeling like I had closed another important chapter. My assets were protected, my future was secured. And most importantly, my dignity was intact. That afternoon, I did something I had not done in decades. I went to a travel agency. I had always dreamed of visiting Italy, walking the streets of Rome, seeing the Tower of Pisa, navigating the canals of Venice. But there was always a reason not to go. There was always someone who needed the money more than me. There was always an emergency more important than my dreams. But not now. Now it was my turn. The travel agent, a young woman named Lauren, showed me different packages. Finally, I chose a 3-week one that included Rome, Florence, Venice, and the Amalfi Coast. It cost $5,000, an amount that before would have made me hesitate, thinking about how that money could be used for something else. But this time, I did not hesitate. "I will take it. I want to go next month." Lauren smiled broadly as she processed the booking. "It is going to be an incredible trip, Mrs. Miller. Italy is magical." When I left the agency with my printed itinerary in my hands, I sat on a nearby park bench. I looked at the paper. Rome, Florence, Venice, places I had only seen in magazines and movies, places I was now going to see with my own eyes. And then, sitting on that bench, under the warm afternoon sun, I began to cry. But they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of liberation, of joy, of the deep understanding that finally, at 70 years old, I was living for myself. A week before my trip to Italy, I received a message from Kevin. "Mom, I started therapy. First session today. It was hard, but necessary. Just wanted you to know." I replied simply, "I am glad to hear that, Kevin. I wish you the best in your process." I did not add anything else. I did not ask for details. I did not offer help. I just gave him my emotional support, which was the only thing I could give now, without compromising myself. The day before my trip, Chloe came to say goodbye. She brought me a beautiful travel journal with leather covers. "For you to write all your adventures, Grandma." I hugged her tight. "Thank you, sweetie, for everything. For being with me when I needed it most. For reminding me I deserve to be happy. Grandma, you always deserved to be happy. You just had to remember it yourself." That night, as I finished packing my suitcase, I sat in front of my bedroom mirror, the same room I had fought for, the room that was mine again. I looked at myself truly, without filters, without judgments. I saw the wrinkles around my eyes, the gray in my hair, the age spots on my hands. But I also saw something else. I saw strength. I saw resilience. I saw a woman who had survived the loss of her husband, who had raised a son alone, who had worked hard all her life, and who had finally learned to put herself first. Margaret, I told my reflection, you spent 70 years being useful to others. Now you are going to spend the rest being happy for yourself. Italy was everything I dreamed of, and more. I walked the cobblestone streets of Rome, marveling at the Colosseum. I ate fresh pasta in small trattorias, where the owners treated me like family. I navigated the canals of Venice at sunset, watching the sun paint the buildings gold and pink. I cried with emotion in front of Michelangelo's David in Florence. I drank wine on a terrace overlooking the Amalfi Coast, while the Mediterranean Sea sparkled under the sun. And in every moment, in every new experience, I felt something I had not felt in years. I felt alive, completely, gloriously alive. I wrote in the journal Chloe gave me. Pages and pages of thoughts, reflections, gratitude for this second chance to live. And on the last page, on my last day in Italy, I wrote something that would become my mantra for the rest of my life. Today, I do not need permission to live. I do not need to justify my existence by being useful. I do not need to buy love with money. I am enough exactly as I am, and I deserve to occupy space in this world without apologizing for it. When I returned home 3 weeks later, tanned and full of stories, I found flowers at my door, red roses with a card. Mom, welcome home. I hope you had a wonderful trip. When you are ready, I would like you to meet my therapist. I think we have a lot of work to do together. Love, Kevin. I held the card in my hands and smiled. It was not a complete solution. It did not erase the past, but it was a start. A first step in the right direction. I put the flowers in a vase and placed them on my kitchen table. Then I made coffee in my Italian espresso machine and sat by the window, looking at my garden, feeling the sun on my face. This was my life now, a life where I was the protagonist, not the supporting character. A life where my needs mattered as much as anyone else's. A life where finally, after so many years, I had learned the most important lesson of all. Loving others is okay. Sacrificing for family is okay. But never at the cost of losing yourself. Because when you lose yourself, you are of no use to anyone. Not to them and not to you. And I was no longer lost. I was exactly where I needed to be. In my house, in my life, in my own story. Writing the ending I chose. It was not revenge. It was liberation. And it felt like waking up after a very, very long dream.